Shall I come back again? Tell me, dear, are you lonesome tonight? Do 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 do. I wonder if you're lonesome tonight.
You think I'm lonesome? And you think it's night?
Yeah. Oh, wait, it's first thing in the morning, isn't it? I wonder if you're lonesome first thing this morning. Are you lonesome, Natasha?
Nope, I'm not lonesome. I'm with you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's lucky. Is your heart filled with pain? Shall I come back again? Tell me, dear, are you lonesome tonight? What are those lyrics? And I'm standing there. Does your heart, do you... Oh, it's just hilarious. How's that go? Are you lonesome? Do you picture me there? Is your heart filled with pain? I don't know. Hey, BOOZHOO! Welcome back to BOOZHOO, NANABOOZHOO, the podcast about Ojibwe language and culture. But don't take my word for it. Look at this. BOOZHOO, NANABOOZHOO by Michael Lyons. We're a podcast about Ojibwe language and culture. And now I have glasses. BOOZHOO, NANABOOZHOO. Hey, Papa Wagosh is here. How you doing, Papa Wagosh? Let me get rid of this. Is your heart filled with pain? Shall I come back again? That old Elvis, he could really croon. So how you guys doing? What is today?
It's Abatuse.
Abatuse. It's halfway through the week. It's Wednesday. Abatuse. Abatuse, abatuse, abatuse. I've got to say, halfway is Wednesday in Ojibwe. Abatuse. Abatuse. Halfway in Ojibwe. BOOZHOO, Jim Dunn, welcome back to the show. We're teaching how to say, Abatuse, how to say, sorry. Hey, Jessica Wabooz is here. Is Jessica Wabooz the same as Jessica Guns?
I was wondering that.
I think they're different. Jessica, are you Jessica Guns? Because we have something special here, but I want to wait for Jessica Guns to get here. Oh, you are? Okay. Everybody switches their names around here. I never know who's watching. Today, on this wonderful Abatuse, I would like to share, I didn't even get her permission, but I don't even care. This is a cartoon that Jess's kid did, Nalani. Yesterday was May the 4th. And so Nalani made this cartoon. It's called May the 4th Be With You. I am Baby Yoda. And look at this. Isn't this great? Nalani, I think you're just a wonderful artist. Let's I saw this on the BOOZHOO crew Facebook page. And check out that face. Check out the expression on that face. You know? I just thought this was really cute. So well done, Nalani. A lot of people don't know that you're actually in your 20s. So, no, I'm just kidding. I don't know. She's pretty young. But I think she's got some real talent here. So, Jessica, I want you to tell Nalani that Sweetie, did you like this cartoon by Nalani?
Are you kidding? I think it's beautiful. I love that. Baby Yoda. And look how much time and effort she put into it, too. You know, it takes a long time to color in that much green and brown and everything.
Yeah. I even like the pink ears and stuff. That looks pretty cool. So, well done. Tell your kid she's got a future. As a starving artist. But, you know, this is how Michael, is this how you got your start? Yeah, I would just draw, you know, cartoons whenever I could, just for no reason whatsoever, you know. And then eventually I was drawing comic books and coloring books and children's books and stuff. So, yeah, you know, she should make up some stories and illustrate them. Yeah, that's a good idea. So there you go. So BOOZHOO Jessica, and she says, thank you for sharing. I'll have to show this to her later. Yeah, cool. And she's 9. She's only 9, you guys. So yeah. Anyway. Abatuse. It is halfway. And how are you doing? Are you halfway through the week? Are you halfway through, you know, your life? Nobody knows. Everyone thinks, I'm halfway through my life. I just turned 40. But, you know. Tomorrow is never promised, huh, sweetie?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of morbid to bring that up, but yeah.
You think it's morbid?
What, you want to talk about death first thing in the morning?
I know. What's wrong with me? How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah? What does Wednesday mean to you?
Wednesday. Well, I guess it always meant halfway, sort of.
Yeah. I can't think of any, like, pop cultural references Wednesday. Wasn't there a Wednesday in a book from our childhood?
Yeah, it was somebody's sidekick. Did Tarzan have a sidekick named Wednesday or something?
I feel like it was some story in the jungle where somebody's name was just Wednesday. But I can't remember. Treasure Island or something. Of all the books I don't remember reading as a kid because I never really read them. What was the first book you guys ever read? I mean, really read. And not like chapter book. I mean, I guess the first book I ever like identified with was Where the Wild Things Are. You know, that dude made a career out of only 3. He only illustrated 3 books his whole life. Maurice Sendak.
Really?
Yeah. He did Where the Wild Things Are and then like 2 other weird ones that never sold. But, you know, they interviewed him a number of... I think he might be dead now. But the cartoonist and the author of Where the Wild Things Are, he was living in a mansion, of course, because everybody owns that book. It's like there's the Bible is the most popular book, and then Where the Wild Things Are. And, you know, it's a pretty decent book, but let's face it, the guy only drew 24 drawings and wrote a little poem and, you know, made $1 million, made many millions of dollars. Then there's you. How many books have you illustrated? I don't know. I lost count. Yeah. You know. Although, how much money did you make last month? $133. Nice. Okay, we're in the money. We're feeling sunny. We got Papa Ogosh says, May 5th is National Day Awareness for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women. Wear red today. Did you wear red today, sweetie?
I'm wearing pink. Does that count?
Yeah, it counts. Yeah, today is the National Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women's Day. What do you think of that, sweetie?
Yeah, I think it's important that we remember.
Yeah. You know, I've wondered if I wanted to talk about it on the show, but it's such a heavy subject. You know, I don't feel like I'm really the person to be speaking out on, like women's issues. You're the one wearing the pink hat.
I'm not wearing that pink hat today.
Yeah, I know, but you got that pink hat for the Women's March.
It's not for the Women's March.
Okay. But yeah. So yeah, that's one thing about today, halfway, Abatuse. Today is May 5th. Wear red for your sisters who are missing and murdered. Jessica says, for kids' books, I always liked Harry the Dirty Dog. Did you ever read that one? Harry the Dirty Dog. I don't remember that one. Did you read Harry the Dirty Dog?
That might have been after our time. We're old.
Oh, yeah. No, I've never read Harry the Dirty Dog. I used to watch Dirty Harry movies. Is it about that? Some rogue cop with big gun who just shoot up criminals and nobody had a riot. Dirty Harry. Hikes. You couldn't make a Dirty Harry movie anymore.
I know. That'd be like, what's that guy's name? Chauvin?
Yeah. But yeah. Oh, but the first real book I read as I think I was a 7th grader, where like I lived with this book and read it on my own for my own enjoyment and identified with the characters. It wasn't The Outsiders. It was S.E. Hitton's second book. And I think it was called That Was Then, This Is Now. That was then, but this is now.
Yeah, that was a sweet book.
Yeah. These two boys who were like friends who lived together and would get into trouble. And some of those characters from The Outsiders would sort of make an appearance once in a while. But my grandma got me that book. And read it and reread it. Then I remember this one day, yikes. Why is it after somebody passes away, you remember all these great stories about them? But some of you might remember that I have had a friend named Lenny growing up who passed away this year. And we hadn't seen each other in a long time. But when we were in the 7th grade together, I was telling Lenny, oh, man, I read this really cool book. It's kind of like us, sitting around talking about our problems, sneaking cigarettes, And so he started reading it too. And he's reading the book in science class. This is the kind of rebels we were. Still in school, going to class, secretly reading literature, fiction, when we were supposed to be reading science books. And Mr. Williams, who was this big old burly nerd guy with like a crew cut and big old black safety glasses he wore just every day, just around, driving in them. And he had these forearms the size of your waist. He lived on a farm. He was super strong. And he'd always be like, you better wise up. And this was back in the days when you could kind of bully kids. Well, he comes up to Lenny and he sees Lenny reading that was then, this is now. And he grabs a paperback novel. And that book's probably, I don't know, an inch thick or so, 2 inches thick. And in his bare hands, he rips it in half. And he goes, this is not a science book. And he throws it, like back on the Lenny's desk. And Lenny goes, hey, man, that's not even my book. You just ripped up my friend's book. And then the teacher keeps going, teaching his nonsense about evolution or whatever. And Lenny never got to finish the book because it was ripped in half. That'd be like a court case now. Teacher would lose his job or something. But in those days, just teachers like, hey, you're not paying attention when I ripped that book in half. How do you rip a book that size? He's one of these guys that could have ripped like a phone book in half. Just tough. Jessica says, Harry the Dirty Dog was published in 1956. Oh, wow. Yeah, I guess we would have been old enough for Harry the Dirty Dog. No, I'll have to check it out. Harry the Dirty Dog. Papa Ghost says, do you feel lucky, punk? Well, do you? Yeah, Dirty Harry. What else did Clint Eastwood do?
He was in a bunch of those kind of gun shooting movies.
Yeah. Harry Callahan, I think he was. He was a man from another time. I never saw that last movie he was in where he was like the crabby old guy. Takes on the gangs or whatever.
Yeah, I never did either. That looked pretty cool, though.
Yeah. Actually, I haven't seen many Clint Eastwood movies, if I'm being completely, transparent and honest with the audience. Kind of stopped watching movies. Well, here's the deal. When I was growing up, to go to a movie theater, you had to drive for a good... it's probably only a 25-minute drive from LaPorte. But if you had to go pick up your date, you had to drive to Walker, which was 15 miles in the other direction. And then 15 miles back through LaPorte, so there's a half an hour. Another half hour to get to the movie theater, which is on the far side of Bemidji. So there you got a full hour in a car before you even see the movie. Then you go see the movie. Or you go, I don't know. Gotta go out to eat first. That's how we used to have dates in the old days. And then you go see the movie. And then you go out and park somewhere and make out for a little bit. And then you got to drive back. And hikes, I dated a girl for a while who lived in Hackensack. And she was like another 15 minutes on the other side of Walker. And added a whole like half hour to my commute. You're like, man, I can't be doing this. These dates are costing me $20 in gas alone. But so I didn't go to that many movies as a kid, really. And we didn't have, HBO or this is back in the good old days. So I don't know. I didn't really get in that habit of going out to the movies. We were there when they came out with the VHS or the VCRs. VCR, is that what they were called?
Yeah, when did they become VHSs?
I don't know. It was a VCR, I think. But you could rent a movie. You'd go to the movie place like Blockbuster. You're like, excuse me, sir. I would like to rent this copy of E.T., the Extraterrestrial, and one video playing machine. And he'd be like, oh, okay, well, you're going to have to write us a check for $500 just in case you try to steal this thing. And, yeah, go ahead. Figure out the technology somehow to... Do you have tools? You're going to need it to hook it up to your ancient TV. But go ahead. And when you bring this movie back, make sure you rewind it. I'm not getting paid to rewind movies. So you take it home. Invite a whole bunch of friends over. I can't believe it. We get to watch this movie again. And we're not even, we only had to pay once. It was only $35 for the movie rental. And then $500, which I don't even have. I just gave them a bounce check. So don't break that machine, for crying out loud. And you'd watch, E.T. or whatever. E.T. probably wasn't even out yet. And, it was like a big deal. But you didn't do that, every night. Now people like watch a movie before they go to work. Come on, honey, let's sit down. We're having breakfast. Gonna watch The Godfather. Or whatever. And movies are just so stupid now. They're just so... They're either superhero movies, which last like 3 hours. And, they're just painfully bad. We've just lowered the bar so much. We don't care if the story makes no sense. We just want to see cool special effects good-looking actors on steroids in realistic-looking costumes and go, hey, look, it's Captain America. Huh, that's what that looks like in real life. Fun. Or whatever, like the Academy Awards, those movies that nobody watches. I don't even know what those are. I guarantee I'll never see them. What was the last movie we saw?
In the theater?
Yeah.
I think it was like Spider-Man 2. And not like, like from the second of the Spider-Man 2s.
Yeah, I think it was, with that skinny Spider-Man. I liked him. He was actually my favorite Spider-Man.
Even more than Tobey Maguire?
I liked Tobey Maguire the best. He was the best Peter Parker. But I thought the next Spider-Man was a more convincing Spider-Man. He looked, he wasn't obviously in a padded suit. Guy actually got into shape. Papa Wago says, Outlaw Josie Wales with Chief Dan George, one of my favorites. Yeah, that was pretty good. Remember Outlaw Josie Wales?
Oh, yeah. He was great as a cowboy.
And old Dan George. I think it was Dan George was also in Little Big Man. Good Indian movie from the old days. It's Dustin Hoffman in Little Big Man. He plays a white guy, I guess a Jewish guy, who gets raised by Indians. And then has to go back into the white world, and he keeps going back and forth. And it's back in the days of Little Bighorn and, Custer's Last Stand. And, old elder, he keeps on saying, it's a good day to die. And he goes out in the woods. Because, there's stories of elders who would get to an age, like even the Eskimo people, they'd be like, I'm old, it's my time has come to die. I don't want to be a burden to the people. So just push me out on this iceberg or whatever. And so these Sioux people is the same thing. They're like, he would go out to just die in the woods. And he would be lying there, and pretty soon it'd start raining on him. He'd be like, maybe it's not. And he kept on living. But it was one of those first Indian movies, those early 70s or something, that really took some time to show how the Dakota people lived. And it was Hollywood, but whatever. It was a gorgeous looking movie and really funny, I think. You kind of hate to recommend movies you haven't seen in 20 years because you go back and you go, ooh, I forgot how racist that movie was. And everybody's going to think I think racist humor is funny. Albatuse, halfway, Wednesday.
You gonna show a gibberish cartoon?
Yeah, sure. Our gibberish cartoon today, and our second Ojibwe phrase of the day, Anin, Eji Chikean. Anin, Eji Chikean, says this Maingan. What are you doing? And it's Maingan and Anamosh again. Dog and wolf. And there's some Mamengwag, some butterflies. And the wolf wants to know, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing with your life? You've been given this precious gift. This precious temporary gift, making it more precious for knowing that it cannot last. And what do? You get up. You have a cookie for breakfast. That's no way to eat. You drink 3 cups of coffee before you even get on your podcast. You ignore and neglect the only woman who's ever loved you.
Is that me?
Huh? What? I wasn't paying attention. And, what are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, yeah, you're going to learn how to speak Ojibwe, and then who are you going to talk to? Huh? Have you asked yourself that? What am I doing? No, just kidding. Anin, Eiji Chikayan, what are you doing? My cousin Missy does this when she calls. I'll be like, hello, expecting the other person to be like, hello, my name is, this is your cousin Missy. I'm calling for blank, But instead, I get a voice, no introduction. I got to instantly try to figure out who it is, And I may not hear her voice for months at a time. Anyway, so a strange voice comes on, and I do know it's Missy instantly. But I just hear, what are you doing? Like, what? Well, I'm being interrupted from what I'm doing from the phone ringing. And now I'm answering the phone and trying to come up with a funny response to that really kind of a personal question. What am I doing? Oh, I was covering up for a murder. Now you're an accomplice. What are you doing? Where is Missy? How come you're not here? That's today. Oh, you know what the worst thing? I could go on this all day. You guys ever call the reservation? Any office in the middle of the workday and like get an answering machine because everybody's out on a smoke break? Or you'll call like the hospital with something really serious, and you'll get just like one of your cousins answers, hello. You'd be like, is this the emergency room? Yeah, that's right. What can I do you for? You're like, yeah, I'm bleeding to death. Or you'd be like, hi, I'm my house is on fire, and they'll just be like, hold on, and they'll put you on hold. Like, what are they doing? Do they think I know? Do they think they know who I want? And you'll be on hold forever. Hold on. And I would suggest that, you know what they need? They need to have some training on professionalism in the workplace. How do you professionally answer the phone? But they have those trainings like every 6 months. And Native people are like, don't you try to colonize me with your white man answering etiquette. Oh, hello there. I'm patriarchy speaking. Instead it's like, yellow. Hold on. Or there's this one too. A lot of elders. I was like my grandma. She could never say goodbye. You get her on the phone. She's like, you could tell she wanted to get off the phone by her inflection. She'd be like, well, okay, I suppose then. Mm-hmm. Alrighty. And, but you couldn't say the words goodbye. Okay then. Yep. Because in Ojibwe, we don't have that goodbye. And Indians have a hard time just saying goodbye. That's another complaint I have about Hollywood movies. Nobody ever answers the phone properly. And they never say goodbye. They just hang up. I was watching The Sopranos or whatever. The phone rings. They just grab it. Like, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, then. And then they'd start talking to somebody else. There's no goodbye. Okay, thanks for calling, and I'll talk to you later. All right. Yeah. What now? Yeah, no kidding. Okay, well, we'll see you. And what was the other thing? Oh, so Sopranos. Greatest TV show ever. Love it. But what is up with people who knock on the front door in TV shows? In real life, you go to someone's house and you do this. And you got to wait. You kind of listen if you can hear somebody moving, if they're home or not. But you wait. And you wait a long time because it's rude to just go. That would scare me. But every time somebody in The Sopranos goes to anybody's house for any reason, it's always like they have to get in immediately. Come on, Janice, let me in. Janice, you home? Come on. And then they're there instantly. Yeah, hold on. What? You're like, geez, but you guys, who answers? I don't know. Hey, Jessica, is that a New Jersey thing? Do you guys? I don't know. We're pretty passive in Minnesota. We're too nice. I mean, most of the time we won't even go up to the door. We'll drive up, and then we'll get out of the car and we'll yell first. Hey, what's going on? And we hope that person comes and greets us outside. But if they don't, we'll get up to the door and 3 or 4, or maybe like even a friendly musical. You know, you don't want to anger, because you know what the deal is. In Minnesota, 9 out of 10 people are gonna have a shotgun loaded right next to the door there, just in case they need it sometime. And it's not just to kill people. You might have to shoot a dog or a bear in your backyard, or a deer or whatever. So you want that first exchange to be very civil. Hello, I'm unarmed. I come in peace. I don't know. And 9 times out of 10, there's like some dog, just ready to attack you just on the other side of that screen door. So you're terrified. That's why I don't visit people anymore. They're dogs. Jessica says, people don't even knock anymore. You just send a text that says, I'm outside now. Yeah, that's the other thing. OMW, which means get your coat on and look out the window, because I'll be there soon. And then I'm here. Just walk out. This this brave new world we're living in. How about this? We talk about the Mandela effect a little bit in the show. And everyone kind of knows, oh yeah, Mandela effect. That's where people remember things differently. And they go, wasn't there a dash in the Kit Kat? How come there isn't one anymore? Nope, never was. Doesn't she say, mirror, mirror on the wall? Nope, she says, magic mirror on the wall. And always has. You're just remembering wrong. But then, what they call the affected, people who are affected by Mandela effect, they have a hard time explaining, no, you guys, I'm not misremembering. It really was different in the place I come from. Behind the whole Mandela effect is this idea that I come from a different dimension, where Darth Vader says, I am your father, Luke, or whatever. See, now I'm forgetting. But they say it's like the Matrix or something, right? Reality shifted. And now we're living in a new reality. Well, maybe what's going on with all this craziness in the news and in pop culture and in vaccinations and masks and people who think there's a civil war, that racism is really bad and sexism is really bad and it's really harmful to gay people in this, it's like something shifted, but a bunch of us didn't get affected. So reality did change, and for most of the people, now it's completely normal. It's like, yeah, of course kids are going to play baseball in surgical masks. That's just common sense. In the reality I came from, people would be like, what are you guys doing? No, take those masks off those kids. They're playing outside baseball. They're not going to give each other, what's the disease? And what's the odds of them getting it or dying? Oh, you're afraid that they might spread it to an adult who'll die. And some of us are like, what? That's crazy. Why are you guys thinking like this? That makes no sense. But to many people, it's like, no, of course that makes sense. We live in a reality where there's a dangerous pandemic that multitudes of people are dying from. And in this same world that you apparently can't see because you're a racist or whatever, we're fighting for our lives as people of color, as gay women, as whatever. intersectional CIA directors with anxiety, and you go, what? What happened to Clint Eastwood? Are we living in a dimension where a cisgender woman of color who suffers from anxiety disorder identifies with as a intersectional something or other? Have you guys seen that? The new CIA director? She came out with a whole like college speech. But I'm not just a bunch of boxes to be checked. I am also a millennial and a... And it's like, what are you doing? Are you supposed to be a spy? Why don't you shut up? And you're blowing your own cover. But half the world's like, yep, that sounds about right. What? No, there's nothing weird about that. You're the weird one if you think everything else. No, you're not living in another dimension. You're just an old, out-of-touch man. Honey, Aji Chicken, what are you doing? I got the vaccination, so I'm going to wear 2 masks. What? Honey, Aji Chicken, what are you doing? Well, I want to be patriotic. How is that patriotic? I follow the science. Science is real. Look at my sign. I put a sign on my lawn. It says science is real. Love is love. It's like those are just words. What do you mean? I don't know. I'm wearing 2 masks. I let the government inject something in my blood twice, and I'm going to have to keep doing it. So I can slow the spread of a disease I've never known anybody to have, or to die from, or to even suffer from. But of course, I'm a patriot. What do you mean by patriotic? I'm a patriot. I hate America. Jessica says, you need to watch Donnie Darko and learn about the manipulated living. Yeah, I've heard other people mention Donnie Darko. I haven't seen it yet. Manipulated living. Huh. Papa says, ego and a pot of mokade mashkiki wabu. An ego, is that what you have for breakfast? Lego my ego. Were egos also affected by the Mandela effect? I want to say that was one of those where like it used to be spelled different or something. But yeah, everything's weird. I heard this the other day too about Michelangelo. Oh, I forgot to pull him up. Speaking of art, so Michelangelo, he made that statue of David and that gorgeous, just so much of what Michelangelo's done, and all this, the Sistine Chapel or whatever. But just an impossibly good artist. People can't do marble sculptures like Michelangelo did anymore. We don't have the talent. And it's almost a mystery. It's like, how could he have done that? To make marble look like flesh. And again, I wish I had pulled up a picture. That was really dumb that I didn't. Maybe I can. Hold on a second, you guys. I just hope I don't shut off the show. Here's an image. I'm going to browse for an image. I'm going to find some Michelangelo because we're classy like that. Nah. Where is a Michelangelo? No, I do not care about Vincent van Gogh. How is it I can have Vincent van Gogh, but... Oh, here we go. All right. So probably the most famous sculpture in the world. It's huge, like 30 feet tall or something. And if we got, if you did close up on this, People who, this is really hard to do. And it's perfect. So Michelangelo does this. We can't do it anymore. And this guy was talking about the Archangel Michael. And that Michelangelo means Michael the Angel. And what if Michelangelo was the is it Archangel or Archangel? Whatever. What if he was the Angel Michael? Because you think, everyone talks about like superheroes and demons and whatever, having, superpowers. But if you really were an angel walking around as a human, wouldn't you have like superpowers of art, super art powers? It would stand to reason that an angel could do something like this. Maybe Michelangelo was an angel. It wasn't just a human. And maybe like Mozart or whatever genius you could think of, was actually an angel. There's no way to prove this, of course, but I like thinking about it. And and all this like ancient antiquitech, the great, just every great work of art, and then all the great architecture from the ancient days that are impossible for us to create now. You go, maybe that, like the, okay, let's do one more. This is what you guys get when I don't plan ahead. I think I only have one picture of this, but we've talked about like reset, where history is like, okay, well, how in the world did they build these buildings? When it's in Europe or something, you kind of go, well, yeah, that country's so old. But this, this is the Mormon tabernacle, right? And the history says the Mormons built this in, in 50 years with like 50 people and a horse and buggy and some oxen or whatever. And you go, okay, clearly what they're telling us isn't true. And this building was in Utah much longer than what history says. And we don't know who built this. It was not the settlers. This wasn't built by the Mormon pioneers, So who built it? Did God himself build it? And this is not even that uncommon. There are lots of buildings, at least as grand as this, all over the world. Maybe there were angels. Something we could sort of understand. Like we would build Walmart, but an angel would build this. I'm starting to wonder if maybe these cathedrals and stuff weren't built by angels. I can't explain it any further than that. This Michelangelo. David. Story of a boy. Some boy, the guy was ripped. A boy who fought a giant and won. You know what? I need to start talking to the kids more. I get sidetracked by all these old farts in the BOOZHOO crew. Children, you might not know the story of David and Goliath. Whoops. This is the story of David and the giant, the Masabe. Back in the days of the grandfathers, the Bible grandfathers, there was a boy named David, maybe a teenager. He went someday later he become king. And I don't remember all the details of David's life. It's probably in the Bible. But I grew up a Protestant, so we kind of burned right through the Old Testament and spent the rest of our time on the New Testament. But anyway, so there was this guy named David, and the day came. Oh, the people were being picked on by these giants. Giants would come into a village and be like, hey there, little guy. And they just bully all the people. And they'd be like, hey, how's the weather down there? you know. And, the people were really unhappy. So David, one day, he prays to Gitchimanadu, the Great Spirit. He's like, Gitchimanadu, what should I do? These bullies are picking on us. But they're giant, and I'm just one little guy. And Gitchimanadu says, hey, man, I want you to take this sling and this rock. And you go right up to that giant, Goliath. And you show him what's up. Don't you be afraid. I got your back. I am the creator. So yeah, it's him against you and me. So David was like, okay. And because David had such faith in the Lord, he wasn't even afraid. So the day came, he had to fight Goliath. Goliath comes in, and Goliath is a giant. Goliath stood over David, I don't even know how much. It would have been like a little kindergartner fighting an all-star wrestler. The size is so off. But David wasn't afraid. And so he gets a sling. And it's not even like a slingshot, you guys. It's just a piece of leather. And he puts his little rock in there. And Goliath comes up. And David says, what's up, Goliath? And Goliath says, fee, fi, fo, fum. Or something of that nature. And so David, he starts to spin that rock. And it's spinning around, right? And at just the right moment, he goes, and don't forget, Goliath has got a sword and a shield, and he's dressed up like a Roman gladiator. And he's ready to really tear up. David is basically naked with this one thing, And that little rock, it just, boom, and it smacks him in the head. And Goliath falls back. And then I think David cut his head off. I'm not sure. I think I saw an artwork where they were holding up this giant's head. And so the people cheered. The little David was able to defeat the giant. And the moral of the story, children, is if somebody bigger than you is picking on you, pray and get a rock and then kill that guy. And do it on a Wednesday. Abatuse, Wednesday, halfway. And this has been the story of David and Goliath. To learn more about the Bible, go to the Bible. Beware of people who will tell you, who will come in between the Bible and you, like me. Read it for yourself, because I just butchered that story. It just says, but why don't you think they built it? 50 years is a long time to build something. It definitely could have been done in that time. If it was the Amish, they would have held it up in a few months. Yeah, that's a good point. If it was the Amish. It's just impossible with the technology they would have had, pouring concrete, just the manpower alone. And Utah is cold. I don't know if it was 50 years, but it had to have been within 50 years or whatever. I mean, I think it was the early 1800s? So at a time before railways and electricity and just the manpower it would have taken, because this is in the middle of the, Utah mountains. The theory anyway is that maybe these buildings were here for hundreds of years, thousands of years, which totally screws up the narrative of the Native American riding around a totally untouched landscape. So I don't know what to do with that. You know, like even in our town, the courthouse, or there's some churches here that look like they're 500 years old. And you go, it seems like all our towns got started in the end of the 1800s, early 1900s. Every building had to be built. The Gilded Age, they call it, where there were just hundreds, thousands of gorgeous churches and buildings and, post offices and court, everything all over the country. Just seemed to sprout up in one generation. And so the theory is that our history is we're not taught our correct history. That the founding fathers found buildings already here. They found a country that used to have people and advanced technologies. And something happened that killed off all the people. And so there was a period, like a reset period in history. Like we got so far, we could build amazing cities and airships, Zeppelins and sculptures and marble and everything. And something happened that killed all the people. And then we started over, maybe as children being brought in on orphan trains to repopulate cities. So like San Francisco, they always say there was a big earthquake and a big fire and they had to rebuild. But maybe there was a fully completed city out there long before what they call the westward expansion. And then they blew up everything and tore down stuff and told us, no, the settlers built San Francisco. I mean, we could kind of believe it out east, like New York. But, San Francisco seems just as old as New York. Some of those buildings, Oh. Hey, what is this? Wisa ni. Oh, wow. When did you get super Niji? Meek much for the show. Have a great day. Hey, we just got a super chat from Wisa ni. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I didn't know that would work. Awesome. Thank you, Wisa ni. $5. Not bad. All right. So we got a super chat now. If you'd like to contribute to the show, I'm not sure how this is working. I mean, I just clicked. I never read the stuff. They're like, hey, you're eligible for this. Scroll down and hit accept. So I did that. And then we just made $5. All right, Meek Wetch. I could use that Junia. I could use that sweet Junia. Hey, there's Missy. BOOZHOO, Missy, how you doing, cuz? You should have been here earlier. I was talking about you. And we're talking about these old buildings. And how in the world could they have built them when they said? Papa Wagosh says, Fruit of the Loom logo switched onto the back of your undies. Yeah, I remember Fruit of the Loom having a cornucopia. Cornucopia with fruit spilling out of it. You may be living in a parallel dimension. The original logo is just a pile of fruit. Yeah. If you remember Fruit of the Looms having a cornucopia, you're from my dimension. I remember that. Same thing with Berenstain Bears. And it's always fun when you find somebody else goes, yeah, I remember that too. You go, oh, so I'm not crazy? It makes you think you're crazy because there is no evidence that there was ever a cornucopia on the back. But why does half of us totally remember that? With Goliath's own sword. Oh, okay. Wisani says David killed Goliath with his own sword. So he shows up with nothing but a sling and a rock. Knocks him out. Takes his own sword. Cuts off his head. That is gangster. Missy Charlie says, look at the big, beautiful old buildings in Duluth. Exactly. Duluth. Duluth should be Ojibwe country. And it's got old, beautiful buildings like this. Duluth looks like San Francisco and New York, too. It's got a really old architecture with those big clocks in them. In fact, I have a cartoon. No, I'm not going to bother. Yeah, like in Minnesota history, they have one story that's like, the Ojibwe people were roaming up here in the untouched northern Minnesota, while the Sioux were kind of central and southern Minnesota. There were French fur traders coming from like Canada and from the west, and Germans after the migration, and the Norwegians. But you know that they came up here to take logs or whatever. And like, you know, a little house on the prairie. You know, they made mud huts and whatever. And that same year, somebody else was making the Glensheen Mansion. A mansion on the shores of Lake Superior. So opulent. It had gold floors. It was like a $30 ticket just to tour this mansion. I never did it. But it's like one of the most beautiful, you know, fairy tale mansions in Duluth for some reason. Why and how would a person build a home that grand? How could they have possibly made money, you know, in the 1800s to justify gold floors? You know, meanwhile they're riding in wagons. So, but again, its reality itself seems like, what? How in the world? How come we've never noticed this before? You go, well, which is it? Was Bemidji, you know, did Bemidji have no buildings bigger than a wigwam until 1900s? Or mid 1850s anyway? And then somehow built the courthouse, multiple churches out of stone, the college, you know, colleges. How did they get all the manpower? Concordia College in Moorhead. They call it, their mascot's a corn cob. Because they go, yeah, the buildings used to be in the middle of a corn cob field. Well, that's weird. Why would they start a college in the middle of a corn cob field? It's like, well, they didn't. They had some beautiful old buildings, like colleges all do, covered in ivy, you know, with towers and whatever. You know, built the proportion of a giant would feel comfortable. Huge doors, ceilings that are 50 feet tall. You know, just grand college buildings. They found it in the middle of a cornfield, hundreds of miles away from the nearest town. And they said, not that far, I guess. Fargo was just over the way. But presumably, you know, history says that white people just came up and very quickly built 3 colleges on the Red River. 3 separate colleges with buildings like this, you know. St. Scholastica in Duluth looks like this, you know. And you go, wow. Who's got the money and the resources to do this? And why? If there was just Indians and pioneers, you know, illiterates, why would you come out the middle of the prairie in the Little House on the Prairie days and start a college? It didn't start so grand. You know, at least in the old days, they would have like one-room schoolhouses. And what, you go from your one-room schoolhouse into, you know, Notre Dame in Indiana, you know, which looks like something out of Europe. So who knows? I can't teach on history anymore. I can tell you what I was told. But mostly the history we teach here, it just goes back about 50 years. We'll talk about boarding schools from the 1900s, and that's about it. Because I don't know. You know, that's not true either.
What do you mean?
We talk about Columbus and everything. So yeah. So we see. I meant super chat. Yeah, super chat. Autocorrect. Missy Charney, $5. Miigwech. Missy. Missy does too much.
Yeah, she does.
We really thank you, cuz I feel so bad about bad mouthing you behind your back now. Popo Ghosh says Barcelona's famous church is famous for its Gothic art and Art Nouveau design by Antonio Gaudi. The church is also famous for being incomplete. It was started in 1882. Huh. There's a lot of these old pictures that looks like they're cleaning up after something got destroyed. I mean, like ladders leaning on it, but it doesn't look like it's being built. It looks like it was being repaired. I think there was some huge war, or maybe the flood, but maybe there was another flood or another something that's not recorded in the Bible that happened. I don't know. Jim Dunn gives $4. Miigwech, Jim. You guys, I'm getting embarrassed. Thank you for doing this. Oh, Jim just gave $4.
Miigwech, Jim. Appreciate it.
Nice. I'll stay on all day if they just keep bringing money.
Woohoo! Love this option of super chats.
Yeah, that's so cool. Anyway, this show wasn't supposed to be about ancient architecture, but those are some of the videos I watched. I was like, what's going on there? You know what else it makes me think of? Sometimes, when they talk about the end times, the unveiling, no hidden thing. There's a biblical something. Nothing shall remain hidden. Like if we are living in the end times, let me get rid of this. If we are living in the end times, maybe all the secrets will be revealed before. We'll go, what? Michelangelo was the Archangel Michael? Were all these geniuses in history actually just angels walking amongst us? I mean, you got your Jesus, who was more than an angel. But maybe there were like lesser deities, like Thor, only they were great artists and musicians and composers. And who would be a modern? Was Prince? You think Prince was an angel?
No, I don't think Prince was an angel.
No, me either. Do you think he was a demon?
No, I think he was like super tuned into something. But no, he had a lot of crappy songs too.
Yeah, nobody wants to admit that. Prince was hot and cold. He was either great or like what was that one song? Do 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 do. I don't know. Papa Gosh giving us $5. Miigwech, Niji.
Hey, sweetie.
Yeah.
You got a phone call.
Oh, wow. Really? What line?
Line 2.
All right. Caller, you're on the air. Oh, hello there, Your Holiness, the Dalai Lama. What can I do for you today? Oh, no, you don't have to give a super chat. Yeah, I know. No, really. It's just, honestly, I think the BOOZHOO crew is just kind of like, hey, let's try this out. No, it's cool. If you just want to watch and learn Ojibwe, I'm not going to hold that against you. I mean, how much money do you even have? You wear the same clothes every day. Yeah, I kind of hate to loan money to friends. I mean, it's cool we made some on this podcast this morning, but I guess I could just, yeah, you know what? I'm sorry. Yeah, of course you can borrow some money. How much do you need? Bail money? What'd you do? Well, just because she says she's of age doesn't mean you don't. Come on, man. You're old enough to not. You take some responsibility. No, I'm not going to bail you out. That's sick. Sweetie, are you listening to this?
I am. I mean, it's hard to understand him, but don't give him any money.
No, forget it, man. I'm not gonna enable you in your crimes. Maybe this way you'll learn something if you spend a night in jail. Well, there you go. If you join MS-13, you're gonna get into trouble like this. No, I'm not gonna help you out. This is what prison's for, Dalai Lama. Maybe you'll learn something and change your ways and get out of that stupid gang. Yeah. No, you're not Latin King for life either. How does anybody join more than one gang? That's stupid. Well, yeah. That was your first mistake. Didn't you learn anything from Prince? Fentanyl is very addictive. So now you got that on your back. And you join these gangs, and she said she was of age. What were you doing in a strip club in the first place? It's sick. Yeah, well, I guess, no, man, I'm sorry. You know, this is called tough love. You're going to sit in that jail, and you're going to think about what you did. And you're going to face that judge, and you try to explain to him what you just explained to me. By a little word of advice, I'd get a really good lawyer. You've walked down the wrong path. You know, Anin Eji Chikayan, what are you doing, Dalai Lama? Yeah, well, look at you now. No, I'm not going to give you any money to get you out of jail. You can call one of your other friends. And there's no call for that either. You know. I'm gonna let you go now. Yeah, well, you know, I guess we're not friends. I'm not gonna be part of that, sweetie.
No, I don't blame you one bit.
You know, the guy. A lot of people look up to the Dalai Lama for spiritual guidance. And if he's gonna join gangs and be doing drugs in strip clubs and getting into all kinds of trouble, I don't want any part of that. Hello, children. Welcome to Sesame Street. That was a Dalai Lama, and sometimes you got to be tough with your friends. In the Anishinaabe way, we talk about how sometimes your friends will go down the wrong road. They will leave the good path. They will leave the red road and walk down the black road. The Dalai Lama, he used to be very wise, very gentle, very pious and spiritual. He didn't want to hurt a soul. But he started to hang out with the wrong people. He started to make friends with the gang members. And pretty soon, his friends, it's his own fault. This is the other thing. He wants to blame his friends. Oh, they got me addicted to fentanyl. Well, dude, you're a grown-up. You know what you're doing. And I'm not going to be a party. I wouldn't be any kind of a friend if I just helped, So, I feel guilty. I don't want him to be in jail, but this is what's come to. All right. What do you think, sweetie?
I don't know.
Missy Charlie says, ancient Mayan buildings, incredible buildings. Yeah, the Mayans are a big mystery too. They blame everything on Columbus's guys. Oh, the mighty Columbus sailors went in and killed off every Mayan. This ancient, sophisticated race of people who could build something like the Mayan pyramids. Oh no, they were cannibals. You know, you ever notice how like Mayans and the Aztecs get kind of racial, it's racist. They get summed up, oh, those guys are cannibals and would sacrifice children to their gods. It's like, did they? You know, oh, because the Catholics are so spotless. Oh, built incredible buildings. Yeah. Wisani says, there are artifacts that say, Christ the magician. No point. Just thought it was interesting. Christ the magician. Well, he did miracles. Maybe that's another word for a person who has magic power. You know, filling up nets with fish. I think we're onto something, questioning that whole crucifix practice. You know, you don't hear people questioning it much because it's such a staple in the church. I was grown up before I realized that the Baptists didn't have, they always had crosses everywhere, but they didn't have pictures of Jesus actually on the cross. But you go, of all the moments in Jesus' life to immortalize, you could have had him walking on water, speaking to the masses, healing people, ascending into heaven. Almost any moment in Jesus' life, you know, being a little kid. There's so many different ways you could immortalize Jesus and his life rather than the moment that he died. You know, and let's face it, those crucifix statues that are everywhere that we've all seen. I probably have one around here somewhere. Jesus is already dead. You know, his head is hanging down. His feet are nailed up. His hands are nailed. That's a dead body we're looking at. Doesn't that kind of throw everybody on the whole point of Jesus? And, you know, even the Protestants will say, oh yeah, well, the important thing to remember is that he died for our sins. And you go, what do you mean by that? Well, he died for our sins. God could not forgive us unless he sent his only begotten Son to die for our sins. And you go, what does that mean? Well, you see, in the ancient Jewish practice, you would sacrifice a spotless lamb to the gods. What? No, but seriously, God sent his only begotten Son. He loved us so much, John 3:16, that he would allow the humans to murder his Son so you might be forgiven for all your your lying, drinking, carrying on, your internet porn. Yeah, that's Jesus. God loved us so much. He died so you could be forgiven. And me too. Oh, thanks. And you better believe it or you're going to hell. It's like, geez. Can't we talk about the walking on the water part? I like that scene. There's an old Bill Hicks comedy routine where he goes, don't you suppose when Jesus comes back, the last thing he's going to want to see is a cross? It's kind of like if JFK came back and all of his supporters were wearing a rifle on their lapel. Say, hey, JFK, he's keeping a dream alive. You know, see Jackie O and you go like, hey, check it out. I got my rifle pin in honor of JFK. You know, to the left, in the head and to the left or whatever. You know, you don't just have paintings of John F. Kennedy Jr. being shot. Why do we have paintings and statues of Jesus being crucified? You know, Papa Wagosh says, the more honest you are, the more open, the less fear you will have, because there's no anxiety about being exposed or revealed to others. Dalai Lama. Wow, that's a good one, Papa Wagosh. That's what I'm trying to do right now, actually. If I can just be as honest as possible. When you're trying to dance around censors and offending people, it's kind of like you're lying. It's kind of like you're presenting a false, you know. I know that questioning the fiction of Jesus is not always welcome by people. It's like questioning, was Jesus actually God? Or was he God's son? Did Jesus seem to say he wasn't God? He seemed to say God was his father. Why are we constantly being told that Jesus was God? Well, because he rose from the dead. Who could do that but God? I don't know. God's son. Archangel Michael can do sculptures. Why can't Jesus walk on water and raise people from the dead and raise himself from the dead? He's a magician. He's a magic man. Jim Dunn says, Bob 'em up, crew. Jim, you have a great day. Yeah, I suppose we should get out of here too, huh? Huh, sweetie. Do you want to come up here and say hello? Sure. All right. I should get off the Jesus talk. But I'm interested in it, you know? With all the craziness and everything, somehow I found myself returning to the religion of my childhood. You know? Re-examining those stories. And I don't know why. But this is where I'm at. You know? Hey, sweetie, I got an idea.
What?
Will you teleport me to heaven, and then I'll come back tomorrow?
No, I'm not going to teleport you to heaven.
Why not?
Number one, I don't have the coordinates.
Yeah.
But also, what if you didn't want to come back? That'd be like you died. And I don't want you to die.
Okay, don't cry. Where should I teleport to then?
How about I teleport you to the kitchen? You can make us some coffee.
Okay. All right, crew. I'm going to let Natasha come up here and say hello. But, miigwech so much for the super chats. That's so awesome. I can't believe it. I feel like I'm a busker on, like, I didn't even sing today. But you know how when you stand out in the street and play guitar and people give you tips? I feel like you guys are giving me tips. I really appreciate it. Miigwech. All right, sweetie. One to beam to the kitchen, please.
Okay, one to beam to the kitchen. And I almost hit the end stream button, so I'm not going to do that. Okay, you ready?
I am ready. Gigawabamin, Minawa.
All right, beaming now. And there he goes. Okay. Well, I'm going to stand right up, and I'm going to walk right over there and say hello to the BOOZHOO crew because I am woman. Oh, I'm going to walk over here for a second. Let me grab my headset. Put the headset on. I am woman, hear me roar. La-di-da-di, the front door. Looking out on the morning rain. I used to feel so uninspired until the day I met you. Life was so unkind. When to beam over. Your love was my peace of mind. You! I can't hit that note. You make me feel like taking off my headset, Velcroing my hair. How am I doing this with my arm? Oh, don't help or anything, Michael. Just sit there. Hi, everybody. How you doing? Just want to stop in and say hey, BOOZHOO to the BOOZHOO crew. And maybe review what we learned today. Abatuse is halfway, or Wednesday. Anin Eshechikean. What are you doing? What are you doing? Missy, earlier I was talking about how when you call, you and Vernon both do this. You don't even say hello. You don't say who's calling. You just say, what are you doing? You go, what? And in a moment, I got to kind of figure out who's calling, what to say, because, well, right now I'm, I'm holding my pants up because you called when I was going to the bathroom, you know. I need easy chicken. And, what are you doing? And what am I doing? What am I doing? Let's see, what are we going to do today? Oh, I got a couple things planned. You know what we did last night? I interviewed Michael Lyons for the Boys Fort Tribal Radio Station. It was really cute. We got a call or a note from Chaz Wagner. He's in a really great band, you guys. Check it out. Warb on it. But Chaz writes us a note and with a bunch of questions. He's like, hey, would you like to interview Michael for the radio? I was like, yeah, sure. And so last night, just late, we recorded a show for the radio on KBFT, Boys Fort. Community radio, rockin' the Northland on a Boys Fort reservation. But, so, if anybody's from Boys Fort watching the show, listen to the radio. And that was kind of fun. What else is coming up? Oh, we're going to review some books. Here's a couple of books. The Hennepin County Library asked us if we'd make a video reviewing some books on, I think one's called We Are Water Protectors, or something like that. Water Walkers, or I don't know. And I hope they're short books. I don't want to have to read a whole book. It'll be like college all over again. We just skim it, read some other review, get the cliff notes, and go, yeah, it's a great book. You should definitely read this book, like I'm planning on someday. Sunny day. Abatuse, halfway. And Abatuse can mean also just halfway. You know, if you ever see a moon that's shaped like a taco, just round on one side, flat on the other, that's called an Abatuse dibiquizas, a halfway moon, a halfway nighttime sun. The Abatuse dibiquizas. Anyway, that's probably enough. How's that coffee coming?
It's going to take a minute. I gotta, it's a Keurig. I gotta make 2 cups.
Okay. Well, you guys, I guess I'll mahjong. It's time to leave. I just want to say, miigwech pisadawyak. Thank you so much for listening. I didn't even do a review of today. So, Abatuse, we learned some Ojibwe. We looked at a beautiful cartoon from Nalani. Nicely done, sweetheart. May the 4th be with you. Well, may the 5th be with you. And that's the opposite of what I want to say to Missy. May you put the 5th away. Put that 5th of Jack Daniels back in the cupboard. It's too early. But Nalani did a nice job. And anybody else who wants to send in artwork to the show, sign up on our BOOZHOO crew page. And or just email it, however you can contact us. And we'll put it on the show. If it's good like this. It's got to be good, though. And we're harsh critics. We don't even like Van Gogh. So we did that. And Dalai Lama called in. Apparently he's in a lot of trouble. He's trying to get NANABOOZHOO to bail him out. And we contemplated the mystery of the ancient buildings in America. And the Mayans and their pyramids. And dared to question the history textbooks. And we dared to question Jesus and the crucifixion and all of Catholicism. I think we did that. He's not here. I think we did that in a fairly respectful way. What? Who cares? I mean, we're not respectful of Dalai Lama, who actually has something good to say. The more honest you are, the more open, the less you fear you will have, because there's no anxiety about being exposed or revealed to others. Yeah, It's a nightmare to carry around a secret. You know? It can destroy your soul. It's better just to admit to your parents, yeah, I smoke pot. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry, whatever. But to sneak around and pretend you live one life and then go home and live another life and try to, hide it from everybody. It's not very honest. So, yeah, whatever. Sunny day. And you have been watching Sesame Street. Brought to you today by the Melinda T. Oh, Melinda and Bill are getting a divorce. Huh. Even with all that money, she still would rather be alone than with Bill Gates. No, thank you. Have you looked in a mirror? So we're brought to you today by the divorce of Melinda P. and Bill T. Gates Foundation. The generous donation from the Children's Television Workshop and viewers like you, contributing members to KBFT Community Radio, and the listeners. I'm sorry. All right, I gotta go. Miigwech Bizadawieg. Thank you for listening. And Miigwech Ganawabieg. Thank you for watching. BOOZHOO, NANABOOZHOO, Neiman Wyndham, Omanugum. I will see you again. Kikawabamin, Minawa. Hawa! Oh, there you are. Yeah,